Welcome to Realms Apart. More energy. More energy! Ah!
You're getting all of this uncut, by the way, Mo.
Welcome to Realms Apart.
Commandant Linde, Eleliel. My name is Cousin Marie.
My name is Matt.
My name is Nox.
I'm Fabienne.
My name's Mike.
Hi, I'm Az, for now.
Piper.
And Momo. We're all artists, creators, and friends with a passion for immersive experiences,
Role-playing.
And creative storytelling.
Those passions have taken us on adventures around the world.
And in the course of those journeys, we've met each other.
Each of us are separated by miles.
National borders.
And entire oceans.
I live in Connecticut.
I'm in Los Angeles.
I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Kansas City.
Cardiff.
I live nowhere and therefore everywhere.
and Ontario, Canada. With all of this distance, our adventures together have been limited.
So now we play Dungeons & Dragons together online.
This is the prologue to our personal, kind of semi-homebrew D&D game.
We decided we want to start recording our sessions in the midpoint of our campaign and sharing them with you guys.
Keep listening
Settle in.
Keep your swords and spells at the ready.
and prepare yourself for Realms Apart.
Ooh. Okay. Ready?
I mean, I'm ready. I sprayed my meditation spray. I'm like,
I need the audience to know I have finished 2 large Starbucks coffees and I am vibrating right now.
Momo turned into Vanya.
Turned out a what?
Vanya from the Unfell Academy.
Oh, I've never seen. I thought you said a lasagna.
I ordered 1 everything bagel and a lot of avocado spread. And the lady called me and she said, "Did you mean to order 3 everything bagels?" And I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
Let's leave the banter to our introduction and go straight into our meditative moment so that we can just ease into the role play. Think about your character. Think about rolling it back. We're going back with this. These characters are going to be fresh to the story. So think about descriptions as if we had never played these characters before. Describe your character. Think about what you had on you when you first started your journey, just because this is the first time that people will be introduced to them. I don't really think that we need to announce that this is a reboot necessarily. I think we just treat it as what it is. We're starting from the beginning here, so let's just embrace that and make it new and have a good time. There is a spark in the glowing embers of the hearth. It burns slowly at first, and then ignites, spreading warmth across the crackling wood. It sits within a stone hearth, and that stone hearth is sat within the well-worn wood and stone of an old tavern, soaked with ages upon ages of ale and revelry. This tavern has seen so very much. Currently, in front of that fire, as the embers pop and crackle, casting an orange hue against the dark, aged wood, sat in a lush chair, threadbare and worn, is an old man with a long, gray beard, but bright, quick eyes. He draws deeply upon a pipe. It's tightly packed with elderweir roots and rich-smelling tobacco. It's burnt low, and the orange embers match that from the hearth. Around his face dances plumes and tiny gouts of blue-gray smoke. And they ride across the old man's face before catching the wayward breeze and drifting towards the fire, and then up the old stone chimney into the great beyond. The old bard had paused, looking deep into the fires of the hearth. It wasn't quite yet the end of summer, but the chill in the air had approached more quickly than it had in the recent years, and it had a sharp tang that hung in the air of that common room. It was the smell of coming autumn and the slow, gradual slumber of the green living world. Now then, breaking himself from the revelry of some distant memory, where was I? The children that were scattered about the floor of the common room looked attentively at the old man, waiting for a tale of faraway lands and heroic exploits. This was always the part of the story where the bard would stammer, pretend to be lost, and then find his way. The bard always started his tales in the exact same manner, as if he was wandering across 1,000 pathways and had finally landed upon the right one. Were we traveling the Moonshay Isles, carrying cargo and dark secrets, perhaps? Was it the deck of the Siren's Call, perhaps? The death of the lovers, or maybe the betrayal of the brother? I wonder, were we still trapped in those dark corners of the Underdark, fighting for sanity and faith? Or were we trapped within the visions that led the young priestess back into the world? Or the halls of Candlekeep, the grandest of libraries, and the place of his greatest revelation? Or was it the mountains, covered in shadow, that place that we dare not speak words of, where the world is mirrored in shadow? Miss Turnbuckle, are you listening? Oh, I am. Waterdeep. You were at Waterdeep. I suppose we were at the beginning then. Waterdeep. You no doubt have heard tales of the Crown of the North, the City of Splendors, seated on the Sword Coast, in the very heart of Faerun, a shining gem in the endless expanse of Abir Terrell. But the tales that you may have heard from lesser bards do it very little justice. Close your eyes and imagine a city that stretches so far and wide that the horizon can barely hold it. A grand, magnificent city that holds within its mighty walls more political intrigue, adventure, and mystery than Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter combined. It's far bigger than you might imagine, and not at all what you might expect. Waterdeep is a city that you could live in for 100 years and still be surprised by when you turn a corner or open a newly discovered door. It always holds some secret. But despite the 100,000 tales of heroism and villainy that have been birthed within the gates of Waterdeep, perhaps most importantly, it is the place where the winds of the world shifted and gathered them together, where the fates forged them like steel, and the workings of the weave ignited a series of events that would forever change our world. And before all of that, before the dragon and the death that would break them apart, before the ravens made their choice and the crown found its home, before the secrets of the ship were laid bare and the traitor revealed, before the spark was renewed, and the truth discovered. It all started like most stories do. On a road, with a world fresh and new, filled with the morning light and a glimmer of hope in the far distance. The gentle light of morning that falls upon your face, and it enters in through the balcony. The palace is immaculate, crystal and intricately wrought. 1,000 years upon 1,000 years couldn't express the grace and artistry that the elven people have put into this sprawling castle. It lies deep within the mountains of Evermeet, and it has always held a special place here. It has existed since the first Sundering, a time forgotten by almost all of the younger races. But the elves never forget. At the crux of the Dawn War, when all seemed lost, and the elven people were shattered and then scattered, they began to descend away from the world. Humans began growing in number, and Dabir Terrell changed. But here within the palace, in the city of Teowin, time stands still. And the glory and grace of the age that once belonged to these timeless people, it stands a testament to the glory of the world that once was. The light of the morning is upon your face. You are young, very young for your people, but this is the world that you have always known. Perfection. The beauty of the land is tethered to your spirit. It is as your hand is to your arm. It cannot be separated. And while you have just begun the time of your life where the trances have been growing and your connection to all things has begun to expand, you are experiencing the visions that overcome your people upon the meditation that you take each day. And you are sat upon a pillow, and that light is striking across your face, and your eyes open, and you remember stars. Stars in the sky that no longer exist. Stars from an age long forgotten. And it comforted you. But somewhere in the far distance, there was the strike of thunder and the roll of a storm somewhere far from here. And for the first time in your life, you find a desire, a wish to see the world beyond Evermeet, outside of the boundaries of this perfect, endless island of beauty and peace. Your studies and education have taught you there is a world beyond, and that you and your people have been magically shielded. And upon your heart is the fear that you have always felt. Dahlia, du Vesfir, tel Quisar, of the land and island outside, from the house of sky and light, you know that one day you will rule, and that everything around you, this land, these people, this perfection, it will be your responsibility to shepherd and guard it, as your mother has, as the royal council has. The weight is heavy upon you, and the weave of magic is so far from your grasp. You have studied and worked, and as that morning light strikes upon your face, Dahlia, you know you must undergo your practice, the work to tie you to the weave. Your mentor, Berthiel Olathir, one of the grand mages of Evermeet, a great honor to any young elven princess to have been instructed by this mage. You had every advantage, and still you fail. You hold your hand before you.
This is it. This is the time. And she just focuses very hard and tries to have just a small flame appear in her hand. It doesn't have to be anything grand or exciting, just enough to light a candle. This is the time.
Nothing happens.
Next time. Next time is the time. We just haven't had breakfast yet. You can't start the day without breakfast.
You stand, and within your chambers, there is a beautiful full-length mirror. Describe to me what the Dahlia looks like.
So she stands up from her pillow, her bare feet touching the marble floor, and she evens out her long, elegant gown. She actually walks to the end of the balcony, and there's some branches branching over top, and she grabs some of the white flowers, and as she walks to the mirror, she starts weaving them into her hair, and she looks to make sure that she's presentable. She has long ears, little white freckles, long dark hair, and very pale skin, almost like she hasn't been outside in a very long time.
And as you look upon that mirror, prepared to start your day, the mirror shatters. There's a crack that runs through it, and as it does, your form changes, and there's a twist of magic that takes that pale-faced, young, smiling, elven princess and reveals to you the form that you have inhabited for quite some time now. A small, green-skinned, floppy-eared goblin. Describe Dottle to me.
Dottle is a little small goblin girl with floppy ears, kind of like a beagle, that she looks in the mirror and examines, moving them around to make sure that they're real. Very large, round glasses. The flowers have remained in her hair, though they're falling out a little bit. And clothes far too large for her that I suppose she runs to grab ribbons that she uses to tie them to herself so that they don't just fall off.
And as you turn, you ram into a bag of barley that spills over, and there is the rock of a wagon and the creak of the wheels beneath you and the bump of the road. A pair of oxen snort somewhere ahead of you as they lumber forward, and you hear the clopping of their heavy hooves. You hear the absent-minded whistle of the old farmer. He doesn't know you're back here. And in your lap, sleeping, is the large brown chicken that you've named Harold. In the sky above, clouds gather. There is the crack of thunder somewhere in the distance, and you recognize that storm from your dreaming. As Dottle, you do sleep, and you do dream. It takes some getting used to. Time has a way of slipping through your fingers, Dottle. You're not sure how long it's been since you found yourself in this state since you ran away, stowed away upon the merchant vessels and ended up on the shores of this new land, wandering, lost, and you would have starved. You'd be dead. But at the point where the berries that you found were no longer sustaining you, you made a friend. That friend saved you and helped you find food that you could eat. And when you had expressed yourself and your wish to find a way home, your friend agreed. He would take you to the road that would lead you back to civilization, and there to a great city, a city that is sat upon the sea, where you could find people with ships, and they could take you back to where you came from. And he took you as far as a farmhouse. And there, you found this old farmer. He has perhaps 4 teeth in his entire head and is more wrinkled than any creature you have ever seen. He wears a tattered old hood and whistles quite a bit. Not well, mind you. It's a broken, very disjointed whistle. He's happy. And as scared as you have been, and as long as this journey has been, something about it gives you some sense of hope. Next to the old man, the old farmer, is a dog, ragged just like his owner. He has one permanently drooped ear and bald patches all across his dull gray coat, and constantly he sticks his snout through the seat in the front, trying to find you, sniffing at you. You know the dog knows you're there. The farmer, you think, might be half deaf and not aware that you're hitching a ride on his cart.
Can I say sometimes I pet the dog when the driver's not looking?
Your little hand comes out and you pet the dog and you feel the wet tongue lap across your fingers and tickle you. And the dog whines happily and you hear its tail thumping across the wooden cart in joy every time your hand comes out to give him a pet. The cart is full of burlap sacks, full of corn and wheat, apple and plums, and Harold sleeps calmly in your lap. The chicken was meant to be a meal when you were near starving, a gift from your strange friend, but you couldn't bring yourself to kill the chicken, so now you have a pet and a companion. Your friend in the forest saved your life and didn't like the idea of the city, but here you are. A place where you can get to big boats and people who knew how to navigate the sea. They would know how to get you home. And your forest friend had told you that he would watch over you as well as he could, but the city was poison and that he wouldn't be welcome there. You'd be on your own again. Other than the chicken, which you refused to eat. Doddle, you're petting this raggedy dog. This road has been mostly dirt, but it has turned into stone, and the ride has become bumpier. And you hear other carts and other horses around you. And before you, spread out, all along that horizon, you see a city larger, more grand than you could have imagined. Evermeet is full of beauty, and the city that you see is jagged and harsh, made of rough stone and strange peaks, and it seems to be stacked upon itself. Roof after roof, shingled roofs that line up endlessly like a forest. Flags are fluttering before it, and you see whole patrols, guards that are dressed in armor carrying halberds with shields, marching in step around an enormous wall. And there, above the city, are sentinels made of stone, giants that are frozen in time. They look like the stories that you have read about. Humans, they're knights, wear armor of a certain type, and you've seen drawings, heard the legends. And these knights with shield and sword are scattered around the city.
I didn't get that.
As if the city itself were a toy. Scattered around, these statues stand in the city, frozen and unmoving. And on the road, in your cart, you rock back and forth, and it grows larger and larger as you approach the gates to the southern ward of Waterdeep. Somewhere else, a cold wind blows across your face, and the dripping of water in the caverns surrounds you. There is an emptiness here, a quiet abandon, one that has haunted you now. You hold your gauntleted hand in front of you, and there is blood. Your other hand, pale, your gauntlet lost, grasps onto the cold, wet caverns of the Underdark. Hawk, you are haunted by the death that has surrounded you.
Hawk, you have to run.
Kara's voice echoes across the walls.
You have to keep running. Don't turn back. Don't come back.
And as you turn a corner, you see your sister, Amara. Her eyes level upon you. Her robes are clean, not soiled by the filth around you. Your tunic and your tabard are soaked to the skin, and you are chilled and wet. And your hair is in your face, and you are covered in filth and grime as you have crawled your way back out of the pits of the earth. And you realize that some of the blood on you is yours, but much of it is not.
Where are you going? How will you forget all that I have given you?
With a start, you wake, and you are in a bed, and your wounds have been dressed. You are clean and bandaged. There is a warm blanket upon you, and all around you is the dampness of the sweat. It is as if you have broken a fever. Your eyes alight upon the chamber around you, Hawk. It is a stone room, small and simple, very bare, with a wooden nightstand, a single candle burning low. There is a needle and thread, some healing tools and herbs, and a small handheld looking glass.
The first thing I probably want to do is try and get up. Are my wounds still sore, or?
You do not know how long you have slept, but Although there are scars and a little soreness when you move, you are completely healed. Whoever has cared for you has done good work.
With a heavy sigh, try and get out of the bed. I'm going to make my way towards the door.
You begin to stand. On a wooden chair in the corner, your weapons and armor have been cleaned. And there, leaning against it, the dark blade with the raven hilt in the sheath is leaning. And your eye immediately goes to it. The sword was the only reason that you survived. It guided you, and you found new faith in it. You've given yourself to the queen, as she promises to guide you. And she has made good of her promise. It seems that you have survived. You don't know how long you were in the Underdark. You remember they're dead, but you don't remember everything. Toland, Harmond, Alari, Kara, Amara, all gone. The door in front of you is sturdy and made of thick wood. As you stand, you glance down at the hand mirror on the nightstand. Describe yourself, Hawk.
His hair's bone white, and on his torso, he has a series of scars as if he's been opened up, then sewn back shut. He's very thin, about 6 feet tall.
Next to the mirror, past the end table, lying on the ground, next to your cloak, which is shredded but clean, there lies a tarnished, cracked symbol of Lathander. The door opens, and a stout figure is standing in the doorway. I thought I heard something. Before you is a dwarf with light blue skin and a braided white beard. He has a completely bald head with tattoos that dance across it. 3 ravens and a blocky dwarven glyph. You're awake. That's good. Thought you might not wake at all.
Lucky, I guess.
Ain't no luck to it, boy, don't you forget. No luck at all where she's concerned. And he looks to the sword, the corner of the room.
I hold out my hand towards the sword.
From the other side of the room, it flies into your hand, and it feels cool to the touch. The candle burns lower, and the shadows dance around the room. Good to see. Glad I'm not wasting my time. Boy, I serve the queen, and her will be clear. You weren't to die down there. She's got plans for you. Place in her works, I bet. We dragged you up quite far. Don't know how you got so deep.
Good intentions can take you to the wrong path, I guess.
Duragar see much. We delve deeper than any, even those who don't like to call us kin. But in the dark, we see things that others don't. Ain't seen no human go down that far and not end up dead. You're a miracle, boy. A sign. A sign the world's coming back around, and the great wheels be moving. Dark is rising. She told me where to take you. Secrets are everywhere. Come along. We got quite the ride into Waterdeep.
Waterdeep?
Skullport's at least a day away, so...
What's in Waterdeep? I'm from Baldur's Gate.
Only answers I've got for you, boy, are what's to eat for dinner and how much water have we got for the trip. The mine carts are ready to go. Come along.
All right, let me just put on my things, I guess. I apologize for the burden I put on you.
No, we do not do that. You're one of us now. We don't apologize. The world's too harsh for that. We just do what we must. You survive, that's thanks enough. The Durgar turns. Perhaps when you pray to her next, you tell her, Drummond Glout did you right.
Thank you, Drummond.
Get your things on, boy. And the stout dwarf turns and walks out, closing the door. As the door closes, the candle blows out. And somewhere in the darkness in the distance, with the sword in your hand, Hawk, you hear as it echoes far away from you. And you picture in your mind that strange raven that landed upon the temple of Lathander so long ago. When you gather your things and make your way out, you find a mining cart, and you discover on the journey, as it is pulled along by an enormous goat-like creature with strange purple fur. Drummond's small shanty is on the outskirts of a place that you know as Skullport. And you travel through that bizarre underground realm and start a journey through mining shafts up to Waterdeep. After some time, with the caverns endlessly passing beyond you, you have no way to tell time. You've long ago given that up. The cart pulls to a stop. Walk for 30 minutes up that shaft there. Tell them I sent you, that you mean no harm. The city awaits. I've done my duty. Queen be praised.
Yeah. Thank you, Drummond. I appreciate the help.
You're a miracle, boy. Cracks the strange goat-like creature, and it turns and starts its way back as you stand alone in a cold, dank mining shaft. What do you do?
I shake my head and quietly to myself say, there's no such thing as miracles. And I just kind of heft my bag onto my shoulders, and I start walking up the surface.
As you do, you begin smelling things and hearing things that you never thought you would experience again. Somewhere in the far distance, there's the smell of freshly baked bread, and you hear the bustle of a city. Footsteps and horses and carriages and laughter, music. And as you pass through enormous doors, a small dark-skinned gnome motions you forward, and you step onto cobblestone streets as the morning light touches your face. And Hawk, you begin to cry. The light is still here. And the cacophony of the world around you deafens you for a moment, but it is so comforting as you remember this isn't Baldur's Gate, but it will do for now. Scattered across a crooked table in a filthy tavern, a lantern burns brightly. It does nothing for the smell of this place. It reeks of old sweat and sour ale. There are far too many people crowded into it, but this table is yours, and for the most part, you've been left alone. You're clearly deep within your work. Scrolls and books, sextants, gears, and other tools are lying about, and there is a glint of brass in the light of the lantern as you continue your research. digging deeper and deeper, searching for the answer that you know is staring you right in the face. You've been through it 1,000 times, and there's no question about it. You have everything you need to find it. Working its way across these papers, a small brass orb with spider legs and transparent wings like a bumblebee hops about. It has a yellow glowing gem in the center of its body, and it clacks and clitters across the paper and the parchment, tapping here and there, handing you pen, quill, a wrench, trying to assist you and unable to do so. It moves about, busy in its work. Your ink-covered fingers absent-mindedly brush Busby to the side. The map that you have before you shows a wide sea, and there are markings all across it. Far away from the Sword Coast itself are large bodies of water, and you have scratched and scribbled across it 1,000 times. Your sister knew the answers and often helped you find them, but she is not here. In your notes before you, the year is 1489 DR, Dale Reckoning, the year of the fallen sparrow. It is the fading, the 13th day. The feast of the moon is approaching. If your calculations are correct, and they typically are, something should be happening here. The scraps of pages, the old Netherese text that you uncovered in those ruins, they led you here. Each year in the Dale Reckoning follows the calendar of Harptos, created by the wizard Harptos. Years in Faerun have 12 months. Each has 30 days. A week here is a 10-day. Each 10-day numbers 3. 3 10 days make the month, and an additional 5 days falls in between each month. These days mean something to the people who use this calendar. It is a code by which they scribe their lives. But the Dale Reckoning calendar isn't the same used by the elves, and hence your research becomes an endless loop of lost translations. In this disgusting tavern, the only one that you could afford. The Wilted Flower, it was called. In your table that you have protected now for many hours, there's a mirror to your left. It is sat in front of the bar by the door so that you can see the door, so if anyone enters, you'll be ready to move. There are those who have expressed distaste with your research, and you know that some of your materials have been gathered in less than reputable ways, and you've been using it to oversee the entire common room of this disgusting tavern. MacLeod, describe yourself to us.
MacLeod, as he looks into the mirror, the first thing that he catches is his own bloodshot eyes and the bags that hold them. He has heterochromia, so he has one blue and one green eye, and both of them have kind of morphed into the same color with this bloodshot. His shirt is neatly pressed but covered in oil and ink. He takes off his glasses and rubs his eyes, rubbing more ink and oil across his face that's already there. Oh, God. Buzz, here's my problem. So, these elves have the same calendar that we do, right? But these fuckers, they have 600 days in a single one of their elven days, and that makes it really fucking hard to track when things are going on. But we have figured out there's something's going on, right?
This in front of you has all of your notes scribbled into it. Pages are shoved within it. It has doubled inside, and the spine has shattered because of it. Parchments and papers are strewn about in front of you, and the small construct that you have built, the small construct that you and your sister built, moves across the pages and taps, and below you see excerpts, and the light shines upon them. During the age that held the Dawn War, the first sundering occurred. It shifted the world of Abir Terrell, and the cosmic order nearly destroyed itself. The Drow were cast down into the earth, and their goddess with them. Shar and Saloon, daughters of Ao, grappled and nearly destroyed each other. Your research has revealed the truth that many in the world do not yet accept. Just a handful of years ago, the second sundering occurred. The Red Wizards of Thay proclaimed it. Some called it madness, as they were led by an ancient wizard of questionable origin that oftentimes wielded an army of the dead. But Sunabar had been taken over by the Orc hordes, led by a warlord named Hartusk. Natural disasters had ravaged the land. There were earthquakes in Erebor. A plague of locusts had landed in Alm. Droughts had beset the southern realms. And it all pointed to something cataclysmic that occurred in the weave of magic. Many said that the first god, Ao, had been slain. Others said that lost secrets were raising themselves to the surface. Hidden truths about that first sundering. The great rains had covered the Sea of Stars for an entire year unstopped, nearly drowning the surrounding lands. The silver marches fell to a foul magic that threw it into a perpetual dusk. The Temple of Lathander had claimed that their god had returned to the world, in the form of a young boy named Stead Whitehorn. The church is now led by an 8-year-old boy and the priestess that brought him into the world. Stars had fallen from the very sky, and the dead were said to walk more freely than they ever had before. The weave and the shadow weave were thrown into imbalance, and the spell plague had raged unchecked. All spellcasters were facing horrible dangers and the complete loss of their abilities, but it all ended when the city of Mithranor, having taken a century to be slowly rebuilt, it was no longer solely a city of elven rule, but had become a blended society of all the varied people of Faerun. It was destroyed a second time, when the final Netherese enclave, a floating castle that held a powerful wizard within it, crashed upon that ancient place. The Netherese. All of your research has brought you back to them. Ancient, powerful, human wizards that had been taught magic by the elves themselves, and with that magic had excelled and done things with the weave of magic that was thought, even by the elves, to be impossible. It was in those ruins, the scattered remains of that enclave, that you found these scraps. It was a graveyard. Thousands upon thousands dead. Mithranor had become a ragged gash in the world. But there you uncovered the scraps of ancient texts that led you here. You believe you know the way. You just have to put it together. You know, and you know that she would have wanted you to be there. You'd always talked about this when you were children. You can find Evermeet. The magics of that land. They can do anything. They can be directed with great and wondrous effect. And you know it all ties together. The first sundering and the second. MacLeod, you've been in your books for far too long. A strange, filthy-looking, drunken man has toppled across your table. rolling over it, just reeking of whiskey and pipe smoke.
Hey, fuck off! What are you doing? I'm clearly busy.
I'm not going to listen to you. Look at you with glasses.
You're gonna fucking listen. And he puts his hand in his bag, and he pulls out a small pistol, and he just starts to load it with shit. He's like, "You're gonna fucking listen. I swear to fucking God, this is the third time I've been fucking interrupted."
Make an intimidation check, please.
That's not gonna go well for me. Oh, isn't it? 12. Not great, but it's better than I thought it was gonna be.
Look, we don't have to turn into violence. It's not really like I meant anything. I'll just go over here, all right?
Yeah, fucking go to the other end of the room.
All right, librarian, I'll go over here. You study, okay?
And the man stumbles across the tavern and disappears into the crowd. I need you to make an insight check, please. And I'm making a perception check for you.
21. Foreman, are you fucking kidding me now? What did I tell you about getting people next to my table?
You've always had a keen eye. You've always been very quick about picking out the details around you, MacLeod. As the drunken man wandered off, it took a moment, but his boots were new. Highly polished. Dark black. And your mind begins to tumble backwards into everything that's just occurred. He rolled across your table. He looked you in the face. Now his nose seems strange to you in your memory. A little too lumpy to just be broken. Was that wax? And then you realize one of your books is gone.
Right, grabs as much shit as he can, throwing it into his messenger bag. He's like old medic's messenger bag that's on the table. Right, Busby on my arm, and he offers out his left arm, which is an ocean of chemical and fire burns.
Yeah, the small brass automaton crawls across the table, leaps onto your arm, and then up onto your shoulder, shining a yellow light across the crowd around you. It's a small pinpoint, and it's a fairly faint light. Busby is more eager than helpful sometimes.
MacLeod grabs his rifle, unloads it, and loads it with a thing, and is like, "Busby, can you see him?" And then charges toward the area. He saw the person go whilst yelling at the barkeep, "Barkeep, that table's still mine, to make sure nobody sits on it."
The barkeep is just a very, very large woman with a very tight gray bun. And she looks at you and just gives you a shrug. You charge through the space, scanning across everyone within the tavern. You don't see the drunken man, but you do find the tunic he was wearing and a wad of clay that looks very much like his nose.
Okay, hey, listen, this is fine. We got out of worse situations. Okay, Busby, I'm gonna need you to go slightly higher and see if you can get an actual perspective advantage. Hey, has anyone seen the man who was wearing it? Does anyone see it take it off?
Busby flies above you, and I did roll a natural 20 on your next perception with Busby assisting. So let's see if you can get a second natural 20.
Oh yeah, Nux, since this is the first time doing this, sorta, would you like to take a second to explain?
Yeah, so we have a house rule where every time we roll a natural 20, we roll it again, and if we get a second natural 20, something miraculous happens. So it's the same for a natural 1, only, really bad. At that point, we roll it a third time. And if you get 3, my promise to the players always is that I will alter the campaign for the better or the worse, depending on how you roll. So if you get 3 natural 1s, something very bad will happen. It may not happen right away, but something in the world is going to shift within the campaign because of that roll. And if you get 3 natural 20s, something very good will happen.
Hey, just for those of you who are watching the video and you're a little confused and you want like a visual explanation of this, here's the other nat 20. Fuck! Shit! 19!
19 is so close.
So close.
sorry, my friend. That's not going to cut it. The other The other house rule, just so everyone who's listening understands, I roll all of the perception checks. The reason that I do this as a dungeon master is to preserve the surprise and the description of the world around you. If you miss a secret door, you don't necessarily know that you missed it. So it kind of throws back to older editions, but at the same time, I think it builds narrative tension. While I trust my players not to metagame, I also like keeping them on the edge of their seat. So that's a 19. MacLeod, you did, however, get a natural 20, and you see the back door by the kitchen entrance slam shut as someone passes through it very quickly.
He goes for it.
Okay, so you run for the door. You burst out into a filthy alley that's covered in old crates and sour-looking piles of garbage, and there's a midden heap down the far side of it, and it reeks of human remains. This is the southern ward of Waterdeep, and it is not where the rich and noble spend their vacation time. It is a place where many enter the city for the first time, but it is downtrodden and has a great deal of sorrow and destitute living to be had. The buildings are bedraggled and the paint is worn, and there's still a sense of grandeur to the whole place because there are so many buildings and they're so close to each other. But the walls of the city loom so close and they cast shadows down over most of the southern ward. It's almost always dark here, and the criminal element finds themselves quite at home, as you seem to have discovered. There's a figure running down the alley. You see them. They are dressed in black leather, and Busby's light lands upon the figure's back as they caution a glance behind them as they run, your book in their hands. They turn a corner. You don't see their face. It's covered in a black mask.
Fuck. MacLeod starts running. He has like a pump rifle. He like pulls back the handle, puts his hand into his bag as he's running, and he pulls out like a thick green liquid that he pours into this small vial. He gets some small leaves that he puts in there. There's a small circular looking stone that he puts in his mouth and cracks with his teeth and then spits it in. He loads it into his rifle, and as he turns the corner, he's gonna ready his shot and try to fire it at the person running away.
You're doing all of this while you're running, so I want you to make an acrobatics check, please, MacLeod.
Ooh, not great at those. But a 12.
It's awkward. You're wasting more components than you would like, and some of it spills on the ground around you as you hurry through your task, but you do succeed. And you ready your weapon, and as you turn the corner, you see the figure standing right in front of you. Roll for initiative.
5.
A punch swings from the quick upper body of this figure who's lithe and quick. You see the eyes, but not anything else. You can't tell who this is, but they have your book, and their fist impacts upon your face. You take 4 points of damage as you feel your jaw whip backwards and a taste of blood in your mouth. The figure turns and runs away. We'll come back to you. Somewhere else, somewhere in the southern ward, there is a shout. Over the din and the buzz of the city, the morning is new, and the light is slowly withering away the darkness that the previous evening had brought. Saray, you are standing on a rooftop. You are on the slate roof of a blacksmith, and you hear the ringing of his hammer as it clangs across metal. There is a warm fire glowing somewhere beneath you as you see the orange cast in the morning light, and plumes of smoke issue forth from the chimney, and it smells of metal. And to you, it is strangely comforting. You're standing on this roof, and you're watching as In the distance, the light of the morning begins to rise, and you're looking out over all of the buildings of the Southern Ward, past the wall, onto the high road that leads off deep into the horizon. You see the tree lines beyond. And for a moment, in your heart, you see the Tree of Souls, twisted, opening up into similar light. It's an old memory. You're not even sure if it's real anymore. When you trance, it's there with you. The white leaves rustling in the breeze. The sturdy gray intertwined trunk that reaches up, dwarfing any who stand near it. And in a heartbeat, you see it burning. The fire replacing the pure white of the leaves. And the bark, black, cracked, with a fiery glow within it, as it crumbles into ash and floats in the air. You swallow hard as you remember why you're here. From behind you, you hear the shout, and you realize that you had not escaped. You thought you were clear. Ophar Thundermask, the heavily tattooed human barbarian, shouts at you, "Give it back! Witch! Give it back!" As the large, muscled man clambers across a roof 3 buildings down. He holds in his hand a chain and a hook. And then you feel your hand and the weight of the coin purse, the money that you were owed. They disagree. Roll initiative.
Nothing. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Saray. I promise, Saray is not this goofy.
That's it. That's canon. No, that's her canon voice now. Can't change it.
Oh God, no. Okay. Initiative. Oh wait, no, it was.
Yeah, you got a 22.
No, I got an 8.
You roll with an advantage. Is that why you have 2 here?
No.
So
I don't know why it does that.
I think you do, because D&D Beyond did it for you. So you have a 22 here, and that means that you are certainly going to go first.
I don't have it. Okay.
Behind you.
Definitely don't.
Okay, then 8 it is.
Welcome to Realms Apart, where we fight for the lower roll.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. So the figure that is up on the rooftop begins clambering upward and stands. In his hand is a chain and a hook. And he's wearing the leathers and breeches of a rogue. They are well worn, and they have pockets upon them. Behind him, appearing now, a rake-thin, red-skinned tiefling, which is a devilish-looking creature with horns and a spiked tail that whips behind them wildly, holding 2 daggers. This is Billix Nufar, one of the companions of Ufar. And behind the 2 of them is a female half-dwarf with a beard and extremely bright blue leather armor, like a lightning bolt. It's hard to miss. And she is Ular Featherfingers and leaps onto the roof very easily, looking to you with a squint. The 3 of them begin charging towards you, and they spend their entire action making their way across the rooftop. I'm going to quickly make a couple of acrobatics checks.
Saray's gonna roll her eyes and stand up and obviously turn to face them.
So they are making good speed. Ufar is actually much slower than the other 2. So Billix and Ula are now way ahead of them. You are still on the roof, and it is your turn. What would you like to do?
I'm gonna charge at them.
You're going to charge at them.
With my spear at the ready.
Okay, so you run forward with a spear, and they immediately pause. They didn't expect you to redirect this at them, and all of them sort of reassess themselves, but after a moment, as you run forward, Ofar smiles.
That's more like it. Let's go.
The other two have weapons at the ready. You make your way across in your movement phase. Would you like to attack? You can attack either Billix or Ula.
Oh, yeah, we're going after Ula then. Okay, cool.
She has a short sword.
I'm gonna run at her, and as I'm running, I'm unfazed, like nothing's gonna stop me, like a train. I'm gonna try and stab her.
Okay, go ahead and roll the strike.
Right in the chest. Ooh.
That's a natural 1.
That's a 1.
Welcome to Realms Apart for Fabienne. We got a natural 1. So it's either you usually, or it is our friend Matthew who fall into these loops. So you didn't roll another natural 1, but you do entirely miss as the half-dwarf rolls across the slate rooftop and lands back onto her feet. She stands back up and has her short sword at the ready. And do you have a second attack or something that you would like to do?
Yeah, I'm going to... Yeah, so I'm going to spend a key point, and I'm going to use Flurry of Blows. I throw my spear at her, and I miss, right? And she, nimbly dodges for a half-dwarf. That's pretty impressive. I'm going to miss, and my spear is gonna stick into the roof, and then I miss, but I'm gonna use my the force in which I was running, like a Olympic gymnast. I'm going to swing on my spear that's stuck into the ground, and I'm going to swing out and kick the dwarf.
I love the way that you've described that. I'm going to give you an inspiration, so you can use an inspiration if you want, or you can bank it for later.
Bank it!
All right.
Unless I fail, and then I'm going to use it.
All right, so go ahead and roll that strike for the flurry of blows, as you spent a key point to achieve it. 16 hits. So you strike the half-dwarf, and she stumbles back and topples off the side of the roof.
Perfect.
You are now only facing 2 opponents, as she has fallen somewhere below.
So after I make my kick, I'm going to land and pull out the spear and ready myself for the next 2 to come at me.
All right. So immediately the large individual with the chain lashes out and whips at you with this chain on a hook.
Rad.
And your AC is it 18?
15.
15. So it does strike.
Can I spend a key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn?
All right. So I'm going to move to the second attack. He misses.
Okay. Can I explain how I feel like I dodge?
Yeah, I mean, he's whipping this chain
badass.
around the top of it. So
okay, so I feel like how many shots does he do?
He swings twice, and he's missed both.
Okay, cool. So can the first one, I nimbly dodge, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one, as it comes around, can I use my spear to hook it and pin the chain down to the roof?
Big ask.
With my spear?
It's a big ask.
Oh, okay.
But I will give you a chance.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is...
I don't know how to do that mechanically. Is there a way to do that mechanically?
Yeah, we can do this. So here's how I want to do it. Let's have you roll your acrobatics.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that you're going to do that at a disadvantage.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can use your inspiration.
Hell yeah.
All right. And let's see if you can beat the difficulty challenge rate that I've got. That's a 16 off the first one, a 14 off the second. Are you using your inspiration?
Yes.
6.
6,
so
cool.
Your disadvantage was a 14, which is with a 6 from your inspiration, makes it a 20. The chain wraps around your spear and you shove it down into the slate roof in front of you. And as you do so, it whips out of his hand. Ofar looks to you.
What?
It is now Billix's turn, and the rake-thin tiefling laughs at the barbarian, points at him, and then looks back to you and shrugs with a sort of look as it's only business. And the tiefling throws a dagger at you, and clearly wasn't trying that hard, as the dagger flies very far over your right shoulder, and then shrugs again. broad smile. Yeah, we're back up at the top here. You hear clattering down below you, and immediately Ophar jumps for his chain. What do you do?
I'm going to.
He has his chain back. It's not free, but he has it.
Okay. I'm gonna run at him and try and strike him with my spear. Again, similar to how I attacked the half dwarf, because I'm not gonna get that creative with these goons.
Go ahead and roll the strike, please. That's a 20. Dirty 20.
Dirty 20.
Okay, so
yeah.
you absolutely hit, and you do a lot of damage.
10.
Yeah, so you break his jaw, and teeth fly into the air like a fountain from his mouth as blood gushes from his nose, and you see his eyes lock with yours as he topples down the slate roof as shingles shatter and break around him, and he rolls, and you see the large, muscled, tattooed barbarian fall off the edge. And it's only you and Billix.
I just turn to him with like this very, I'm ready to go. Are you? Face?
I'll tell you what. I'll give you a running start. I'll count to 30. 1, 2, 3. And on the other finger, he's balancing the dagger, and you can see that he's very good with them. 4, 5.
Push him.
7.
30, and then I'm gonna run at him and attack him.
All right. So you take no shit from anyone. You say 30, and you start running towards him. Meanwhile, sounds of the waves crashing against stone.